it's all right with you, I like to open up with the Spirit Calling song, just to ground us. I sing it just to open up our hearts, open up our minds, open up, our spirits, so we can just find a common ground. We don't necessarily have to agree on everything. We don't necessarily have to relate to everything that's on the wall. But just do our best, just to coexist and have, different opinions. That's okay. All right. Sorry. You can close your eyes if you want. We're just calling the spirits here, just to open this up, letting us be authentic, let us be empathetic, and just being understanding and accepting, and just really blessed for having the community that we have. All my relations. Oh, thank you. Everybody just take a deep breath. Oh, thank you. I'd like to thank the AS Art Gallery and their staff, Annika. I know I saw her. Annika, Ceci, and Connor. And then, of course, Project Rebound with Jason and Doris and George and Gabe and help me out if I forgot you. Raphael. And just thank you for collaborating with us. And of course, William James Association. We got Lori Brooks, our executive director. Bravo. There she is. Joey Reyes, our program director, and some teaching artists, and Alma Robinson from the California Lawyers for the Arts. Oh. All right, and this brother, I recognize you. Dejan, that's right. Thank you. Empowerment Avenue. We just really appreciate the support from the organizations. We compete for grants, but we're not competing against each other. We're uplifting each other. We're supporting each other. And if we have a program that that can benefit, just give us a call. We'll do the same. But today we're going to sit with myself, formerly incarcerated. I had 29 years to life. I got out after 20 years, and I've been out for 12 years now, almost 13. And I'll let my colleague here introduce himself.
I was formerly incarcerated. I'm an artist, a musician, and we befriended years ago, and I met Lori and Rich Robinson, and it just was been art for me. And the pause that I take from art is because I have to work. Sometimes you gotta book meetings, I statement, I had to work, you know, to make sure you can pay the bills and all of that. But art has really changed my life, and I don't want to take up too much time because Henry has a lot to say.
What's your name?
My name is Gary Harrell, and I'm an artist.
Yes, right on.
And a musician.
And a teacher.
Yep.
And great grandfather. Imagine that. Who thought that they would still be alive to see their great grandchildren and bless them and nurture them? Because I wasn't there for my children, and it's not the same. Boy needs a dad to help rear and steer him to be the man he should be. And I'm gonna stop.
All right. So why are we here today? To view Rehabilitation as a Choice exhibit. The Rehabilitation is a Choice is just to really amplify that the state of California, the CDCR, does not mandate you to rehabilitate. It will mandate you to go to classes and stuff like that, except for maybe AA and NA. But the cognitive behavior therapy, the self-help groups and stuff like that, that's voluntary. You have to sign up for that, or you have to put in a request to be put on a list to get in these classes. So the people, the artwork that you see up here that are still incarcerated, and the handful of people that are returning resident, made a choice to do something different. So the main purpose of this exhibit is to humanize the artists, the people that are experiencing incarceration right now. We do not, because I'm formerly incarcerated, I don't want to be seen as a number. I don't want to be seen as my crime. I don't want to be seen less than myself, a human being, Henry Frank. And I am, doing my best to give back to the community that helped me get to where I am. I share that, I would say, I'm successful out here as, formerly incarcerated and then as an artist and all these things. But I'm like an iceberg on, where the ocean is. You see this little iceberg right here, and that would be me. But underneath this just gigantic mass of everybody who helped me to get to where this spot is, that had uplifted me, that seen me as a human being when I didn't even see myself as a human being. I did not see myself, as an individual. I was J80928, and I was just waiting to die. That's what I was doing. But art, art played a key role into finding my own identity and being able to express that. And this Lego piece right here is the Arts and Corrections. And the people that are in there are actual people that were doing art. Gary's in there, Steve Emmerich's in there, and a lot of the teaching artists and a lot of the students. And most of them have been paroled. And I say half of those decide, to pay it forward into their communities and helping other people, find their art, vibe when they get out, because it's expensive, to buy pretty much anything right now. But, we only got $200, you really gotta love art if you're gonna throw it all on that when there's other things to get, like your ID and all this stuff. But, we're there to do our best to give them that space to create. Would you like to say anything?
And William James helped facilitate that. I got to San Quentin in 1992. I had a cellie. He was an artist. His name is Larry Miller, if anybody knows him. He says, man, you better find something else to do with your life, man. He said, chicken shit life, because you got life, bro. You can't call your mom and daddy. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? That was so far out to me that I didn't grasp it. But I went over there and I met Bobby Atton, collage, and she showed me how to literally do collages, and then you start from the background and work out. And I do great collages. Thank Bobby and God and Lori and Henry. And when you do art, you put so much of yourself in it, you know, that what is it and when is it finished? It's done when you say it's done. And the work that we do for ourselves and the people that we come in contact with never stops, man, because I'm working on being a better human being. I came to prison when I was 20 years old. I'm 65 years old, 70 now. I still look good, thank you very much. All right. but it's so much more out there than there's a world, man. You have to go see some of the world, because we've been like right here 20, 30, I did 42 years plus. And to come out here and see how it's changed the phone, man, I really don't know how to use it. It's not my friend. You know? And people say, man, you should be able to use the phone. You should be able to use the phone. I said, no, you don't know my issue. And I just leave them alone because I don't want to go into it. Because 20 years, it changed dramatically. 40 years, it changed even more. So I'm like horrified when it comes to that thing, the phone. And it gets better with practice. You can't break it, I learned that. And moving forward, you're going to meet some wonderful people. And a lot of people want to help you, because I don't want to be known as a prison artist. I want to be known as an artist. You know, when you take the prison away from this, somebody had to learn how to do art somewhere. Some of them learned in their living room, some of them learned in college, and some of them learned in prison. But it's still art. And that's the only way you could address or identify it, because it's so beautiful. You can't take art and music is like universal. You can't, you speak the same language. If you know how to play music and read it, you can go anywhere in the world and play music. That's what art does for people. And you become more aware of that as you receive it. And then the people are so marvelous, man. You don't bump into, you know, a whole bunch of negativity. Because if somebody starts telling you can't do something, get away from them. Because they're dream killers. And I don't want nobody killing my dream.
Thank you. So beyond just teaching art and techniques and styles and all this stuff and color theory, you know, the arts and corrections has a great, just dear place in my heart. And at the time, I did not realize what was going on, but I'll share the story real quick. It was the first time, like, in a classroom, and probably like 12 years of my incarceration, that somebody that was not in blues, a resident, you know, called me Henry, and that was my block printing teacher, Katya. And they're like, hey Henry, is it okay if I call you Henry? I'm like, all right, sure, it's kind of weird, but whatever. And so she started calling me Henry, and then, you know, to me, still, she was just an undercover cop because she wasn't in blue. But it took about, you know, 2 or 3 months to get in there and just starting to get comfortable in there, and, you know, hearing her call my name by Henry, and then meeting the other artists in there. Usually it's the same people that show up every morning that, you know, just love art. But I learned, you know, to like drop these walls that I have of a division, you know, because they used to just be Black Gary and Mexican Phil and White Boy Scotty and all this stuff, but then it became, you know, the fine artist, the block printer, the musician, the classical guitarist, you know, and then eventually it became friends. And that moment was when I got a letter from my dad, and he said, hey son, love you, I almost died this weekend, but I'm okay. I'm like, what? And I found out that he has, I know he had rheumatoid arthritis, but he takes a shot, and when his shot wears off, he like becomes paralyzed. And so the shot wore off, like as he was walking through this grass field, and it just rained, so there's like mud puddles. Well, he falls into this mud puddle and he couldn't push himself out. And it was only like 3 or 4 inches. I can't remember, it wasn't that deep. But he was just face down in it. And luckily, where he was walking, there was people outside, saw it, came over and picked him up. And so he didn't drown. And I'm just like, wow, I was really internalized, like, I'm in here. I didn't, calculate all this stuff. And in my head, I'm not hurting anybody but myself. But, not really taking into account for a future because I didn't think I had one. I thought I'd be dead around 20 or something like that, live my life, go out and blaze glory and all this stuff. So anyways, I'm just really feeling guilty and just disappointed that I was not there to help him when he needed help. And so I came to class, and normally I'm a talker, so I was just came in, I got my stuff, and I just started working. And everybody's like, hey, Hen, are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm good. And I went, kept working. And then Katya came over, and she's like, hey, Henry, if you need to, talk about anything, you can. I said, I'm good, thank you, appreciate it. And then they left me alone, and then finally Katya came over, sat down, and he's like, Henry, we know something's wrong because you're in here every week, and usually, you're chit-chatting and, doing all this stuff, but, you're just focused on your work. So just know that you can share anything you want. And some of the guys like, yeah, we'll listen, we'll hear it. I'm like, okay, that's cool, thank you. And I went back to work. And then finally, I'm like, if you guys really want to hear it, I will share it with you. And like everybody in the class put down their paintbrushes, put down their carving knives and stuff like that. And I said, this is what's going on. And I told them about my dad. And they're like, we're praying for him, you're doing what you can, or you're keeping him in good thoughts. And we said, probably the prayers that you gave before had that person there to help him out. So, you're doing what you can. I said, yeah, well, thank you for that. And getting it off my chest and sharing it really helped me. And after that, it didn't get out, it didn't, nobody gossiped about it or anything like that. And then about 3 weeks later, I come to class and I'm setting up and, we're doing our thing. And then somebody say, hey, how's your dad doing? And I'm like, what? He's like, how's your dad doing? I said, wow. I said, he's doing great. Everything's good. He got his medication. I said, thank you for asking. And that was the moment where it's just like, wow, that I can trust this circle of artists that I see every Friday morning. And from that point on, I learned that Felix had a daughter. I learned that he was married. I learned all of these things of other people's lives where I was just blocking it all out because, like I said, I was okay with dying in there. I was just waiting for it to happen, but I wasn't suicidal or nothing. It's just inevitable. I'm going to die here anyway. But it helped me open up, and it helped me take down those walls. And so it created this space to develop communication skills, social skills, the ability to ask for help. And then after a couple years or 3 years where I felt comfortable with my art profession in there, I was able to help other people, when they needed or if they requested it. And so, which, flows out here. And not only out here, but while I was in there, it improved my relationship with my friends that were still by my side, and I would call, once a month on letters and stuff like that, and asking about, how their daughters are doing, how are they doing, how is their husband doing, how is their wife doing, and so it really opened up, this, pathway to a healthy community, and what does that look like, So that kind of gave me the foundation when I got out, and it's scary, after 20 years. And when I went in, I know I'm jumping all over, but I'll bring it back. And when I went in, the technology was a beeper, and then when I got out, it was these cell phones that were mini laptops. And I never touched one inside because my goal was, after, I decided I didn't want to die in prison, I'm not going to do anything that will keep me in there longer. I'm not willing to risk that. But got out and just adapted. And I'm still adapting. I'm not going to lie. I've been out for almost 13 years, and there's still things that just pop up when they present themselves to stimulate a reaction that my body recognizes, but my mind doesn't until I stop and check in with myself, be like, what is going on? And normally it's silence. When everything gets silent, my body just goes on high alert. And it took me, a couple of years to find out, like, kind of break it down to, like, when you're on the yard and everybody's doing what they're doing, and then all of a sudden something happens over here, and so that person over there stops and looks going here, then that person stops and looks over here, so this wave of silence goes across the yard, which is danger, something is going on. So it took me a while to make that connection where I could diffuse it before before it overwhelms me, where I have a panic attack or something like that. So I'm going to stop there with that, just trying to get the connection there about, what that room did and what it does. And I'll share that I am a teaching artist now at the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. So I work in the hospice there doing a mural with the patients, and my colleague here, Sam Tuviolo, who's been there he's been in carceral teaching for 25 years. So I had 35 years. And so I have a great mentor and a role model, that I really appreciate when I went in there to, conduct myself. Even though, I have this baggage of being incarcerated, but I do believe that it has helped me therapeutically being inside and being with the men in there and the artists, and really talking with them, about their experience. So I am blessed to be able to go in there and give back. And I do it to honor, Sam and Lori, the people who make those choices, even when I just thought, they just didn't have lives or didn't have nothing else to do. That's just how I thought back in the day, but now I understand that they love what they do, and I understand how much joy it brings them, because I know how much joy art brings to me, and I just want to gift that to somebody else if they're ready for it. And my brother here, he is also a teaching artist, but in Solano, and I'll let him tell you about that.
We just finished a mural. It's awesome. And eventually the world will be able to see it, but not right away. And the work that goes in there, what happens is you just become people when you come into art room. Because again, there were all different ethnic balances. And they white, Mexican, black, they're all selfish and stood offish, and then all of a sudden you see them collaborating with each other to do art. You forget about the boundaries that administration and yourself create to keep you separated, and you want to become more together with your people so you can do what you want to do. That's art. That's where you find your peace at. I found my peace at. And people say, well, Gary, what are you going to do when you can't do art? I said, I probably won't be living. Because art is so much a part of my life that we walk by. This is our piece right here. Some teachers, us got together. Art Hazelwood brought the project to us, a steamroller. And that right there is Henry's work. No, that's Jasper's here. This is Henry's work. This is my work. And when you look at your work, it's like, wow, I did that. And then, man, that's good, that's good, that's good. So the accolades that you get, it's like puts you in another place of want to do more. So then you want to give back and make sure nobody's missed. Literally one day, I was going to arts and correction, and I didn't wave at this brother. And he said, Gary, you didn't wave at me. And I felt hurt, right? So then I started waving when I go across the art to get to arts and correction, so that way nobody can say I miss him or I can say hi to him. Because some people are sensitive and they're mean, and they don't want to say that they're sensitive, but they are. And I see that more and more as I see things another way, because I want to be hard, I want to be tough. That's what I thought. But I see I'm so soft, I'm like a twin, because things that affect me, that's human. And that's where I am today, part of the human race. And Henry and I and the rest of the people, William James, are trying to save this place. You know, and it just takes one individual at a time to receive the blessing, and then they give it to another one and another one and another one. And they say, where did you get this from? They say, oh, we got this from Lori Brooks. Wow. You know, you never know where it's coming from, but it's coming all the time. Just like I seen that brother right there. I know his face, but I don't know his name, but we know each other. I seen that brother back there on the wall. And I'm saying, hey, man, I don't want to really just go up to him and say, man, were you in San Quentin? And he came up to me, then I asked him if he was in San Quentin. You know, that kind of stuff. And a guitar class, and I was in his class. So, life makes you have another life when you receive the blessing of heart and continue to do it. If you just want to do it, then you got to go to sleep, right? It's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not ready to go to bed yet. I want to do this last thing, you know? It puts me in a safe place. And I know that. My mom and dad used to tell me to be home by the time the lights came on. When I was a kid before I went to prison, I gave all kind of duty. But guess what? Today, I'm home before the lights come on. You know, so it's a whole circle. You know, they say 360, everything is the same, but 180 things change. And I just want to be part of the change right now. And heal and help through art. And there's a lot of people that are just stand out, that's there for you. If you, whoever. I was talking to a guy today, and used to be my cellie. So, you know, you have people that you meet on the way to your freedom. And this guy kept talking about, man, I'm getting out. So he finds out that this dude has some weird stuff on his trip. So I'm like, I said, man, let's move past that, man. Because people did whatever they did to get it, because I don't want to judge, because God is going to be the judge. If I waste my time tripping on what people did or didn't do, I wouldn't have time to do what I do. So I leave myself room for that space. And he says, well, man, I could find out. I said, man, no, it's good, bro. Just tell the brother I said hi. You know, wish him the best. Because so many people want to just burglars hang with burglars hang with burglars, raiders hang with birds, burglars, child molesters hang with child. You know, you see so much of that, but when you see the human in the people, you get away from all the stereotypes. Because you have to give it room to change and breathe. Not talking enough. I need some water right here.
Okay, we don't want to make it about us. We do have some artwork up here, but I really want to showcase our students, the people that are still incarcerated, that are in there, that show up every week. And, you know, I get feedback from them saying, you know, they look forward to this class every week. It's only 2.5 hours, but it's like a 2.5 hours where they get transported out of the prison environment, because they feel comfortable where they're at, and they're focused on their artwork, and they're free to create, you know, whatever imagery that comes to them, you know, within the guidelines of the CDCR, which is just, you know, no nudity and no violence, but everything else you can create. So people get to create their own world, you know, on these paintings, you know, from the past, maybe thinking about the future or whatever it may be. And they get the same experience that I did, where they can ask for help. We have one guy who did this, Royal Clark, who did that skateboard with the eagle. We can't take credit for that. He came that way with those skill sets. But what we did see is that he's a natural teacher. Like when Sam and I are doing other things, you know, in the classroom and somebody needed help, Clark is there to help them out and show them techniques and show them how to gesso a board, show them how to use, you know, the gloss over it. And that inspired other people to help, you know, other students. And so it is just fantastic. So I'm gonna and I asked them, I was in class yesterday, took pictures on Tuesday, brought it in so they could be, you know, they could see the layout and be a part of it. And then just spoke with them and asked them, hey, would you write, you know, a statement? And they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I can't do that. And I'm like, no, all you gotta do is just share what you're feeling. You're not campaigning or anything. What is it that the Arts and Corrections, what is this workshop, what does this class do for you? Can you just put that, could be one sentence. I said, I'm not reading 5 pages, but up to a page. And they did. So I'm gonna read Royal, who did that eagle right there on that skateboard. And I like to plug too that the skateboards are actually part of the skateboard project that the William James Association is in collaboration with the Humble Skate Lab in Eureka. Chad Regan, who is part of the owner, contacted me and set up dynamics where he sends us blank skateboards, and then we have our artists paint on them. And we asked them, we're not like, hey, you're doing this. We're like, hey, would you like to, be a part of this project? Everybody in the class raised their hand, and everybody painted one, and it ended up in CMF, San Quentin, and Mill Creek this year, and I believe we're going to add 2 more, if we have the funding to do that. So this is from Clark, Mr. Royal. My name is Royal Clark, and what Arts and Correction has done for me since my participation in 2022 until the present, it has allowed me to grow even further as an artist, and has also allowed me to share what I have learned with others. Teaching others is a very rewarding experience for me, and I receive great joy from it because I am able to also bring joy to other people's lives. Even though we are all incarcerated, that itself helps foster the rehabilitation process through the art that I create and help others to create. And I am more than grateful for being able to participate in the Arts and Corrections program because it has enriched my life in so many positive ways and has allowed me to express myself through art and connect with the community and the world. Thank you, Arts and Corrections. I mean, it's not relevant, but I'm going to mention it. He is a former death row resident, and then when they got it, they did what they did, and he filtered into the lower prisons, lower level prisons, and he ended up in CMF, and he waited, I believe, 2.5 years on our waiting list to get into our class. And there could have been all kinds of other things that he could have done, but he was determined to be part of that class. And we are glad that he did. And we were able to help him, especially Sam, to enlarge, because I think the biggest one he did was a 16 by 20, and we got him up to
4 foot by 6 foot.
A 4 foot by 6 foot, and it was a shark painting, and it ended up in the office of,
I forget whose office. It's
Mom,
downtown in Sacramento at the.
It was meant to go to the secretary, but I think
Yeah.
I think the warden at CMF decided he liked it more.
yeah.
I
So,
don't know.
yeah, so it's somewhere there, and then I'll just do here. Willie Miles, he's the one who did Leave No Brain Behind, and that is, based on Binky and the Brain taking over the world, but he really loves education and, to academic, but also just art, music, anything that he can learn, to put in his arsenal, he jumps on it, and he invests himself in it, he's just not doing it for a chrono or, oh, I did this, he wants to learn it. So he says, always the utmost of greetings to the community. And I told him I'll be reading it to the community in here. My name is Willie Miles, an inspiring artist who believes in sharing my dreams through my drawings, paintings, and sometimes poetry. I enjoy creating my works with color, illustrations, and storytelling. It is my vision to lift your spirits, thoughts, and dreams in a beautiful way. For me, your contribution of a smile lights up my artwork. And then there's a shark up here on the wall, like an 8 by 10. There it is. And we gave a whole class on, doing titles and, labeling of your artwork and stuff. And I'm like, just don't put shark in water. Like, you know, what is it? What is that shark doing? What did that shark just do? What is it planning to do? You know, did it have a mate? You know, all this stuff. Like, what is it that you can't see in this painting of what that shark is doing? And so he pondered on it, and at the end of the class, he says, I know what I'm going to call it. My best friend is a shark. I said, that is awesome. And so he said, what I love about this class is everything. It's hard for me to put this down on paper because it's not my strong suit, but I feel that it needs to be known that this class has changed me for the better and made me some great friends along the way. I feel that Henry and Sam are friends of mine, mentors, great people to look up to, so I can only hope to be half as good as they are. This class makes my day every week. I get to paint, talk to friends, have peace of mind. It's my getaway from the prison. I see myself as a painter, and I like what I see. I just keep getting better and better every time I look. And that's Jaime Jimenez. And I'll read this last one here, and then we'll wrap it up. This is from Michael Duncan. His piece is not in here, but he is a fantastic artist as well. But I really love his journey of rehabilitating himself. And he just, I said, hey, if you want to write something, you know, give it to me in the class. He's like, I can do that. I said, all right, cool. And he said, rehabilitation, doing what is right as opposed to doing wrong. Art brings joy and a peace of mind. So we are very thankful that you are here to share our art with. Just by showing up and existing, you are doing your part. However, people may feel inspired, enamored, threatened, even triggered by your natural state. However, none of it will have anything to do with you. Remember why you are here. Michael Duncan. Yes. And I guess I'll end it this time for real on this one. Last month I had my anniversary, so I took the week off, and I do my best not to miss any classes, you know, because it's coming back every week. Consistency is really important. And so I was just like, hey guys, you know, I'm not going to be here next week. It's my anniversary, just so you guys have a heads up. And they're like, all right, yeah, happy anniversary, tell your wife this now. And I was just sitting there, and I was just doing something. And I'm like, you know what? There's not enough verbal appreciation in the world. And I just said, hey, I just want you guys to know I appreciate you guys in the class. I appreciate you as artists, and I want you to know I appreciate you as human beings. And like, they're like, what? Well, I just want to just let you know I appreciate. No, I've heard this before. You know, he's like, my dad left, he never came back, he told me how much he loved. I said, what? And they're like, yeah, like, we have abandonment issues, you know, like, if you're leaving, just let us know. And I'm like, no, I'm just letting you know that I appreciate you guys, because there's not enough appreciation in the world. He's like, you know, we're still dealing with a lot of stuff. I said, I promise you, I will be back next week. What that did for me, you know, was really open up my eyes, because like when I was in there, you know, with, you know, Gary, that was kind of different, but for them to just say that, and it wasn't just him, there was like 3 or 4 people that were really interested, and I said, if I leave, I will let you know when I'm leaving. I said, I don't see it in any future, you know, near future or anything like that. I'm here, and if I ever decide to step away from teaching, you guys will be the second people to know, because my wife would be the first, as I'm figuring out to break into glory. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm just letting them know that, you know. And I just like, wow, that the culture and, I don't know, just the spirit of prison, you know, the men inside is changing, where they can express their feelings and their fears and their concerns. And that just warmed my heart, and that just really solidified, you know, why I am there, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Coming back.
Yeah, it's not us. We're not saying you do. It's for them. It's to give them what Sam and the other past teachers gave to us when we were in there. So I thank you. I just want to offer Lori Brooks if she wants to say anything.
No, no.
All right.
No, smuggling in love, that's what.
Smuggling in love.
That's what I feel like we do, and, I don't know if there's any questions from anybody here.
All right.
I'm good.
I do have one thing to say. What he said is intensified. Every day that art teacher's supposed to be there, we were out there lying waiting on her. So we know the feeling when you're gonna take a vacation, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that. I was telling Lori that I went to Oregon, I had to be back on Wednesday so I could teach the class. And the train was running late. I said, oh my God. So then I get a text from Sherman. Sherman said, we're having in-service training today. I was relieved because I didn't want to let my people down. And then we look so much forward to seeing them as they look to seeing us. And I stop.
All right. So are there any questions? Anything? Everybody good? Yes.
Well, I am so happy that Lori called me today to tell me about this.
Oh, excuse me.
And Henry sent me the information. My name is Alma. I'm with California Lawyers for the Arts, and it's been a pleasure to know many of you in different ways throughout these years. Lori and I have been what we call the sisters in crime. Working on arts and corrections since 2011.
Yeah.
And brought it back from the dustbin of history. And when you mentioned Vacaville, I thought, because I've been doing research on the origins of arts and corrections, which started with the William James Association back in the 80s, I believe.
77.
77, close, thank you. With Emily Smith, and she got inspired by the art classes at Vacaville. She was then at the Arts Council, and she was judging a show, and it's just full circle that you're at Vacaville, Henry.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And so I learned a lot today about you too, my friend Gary. And we started a reentry program. Gabe is part of our Design Creative Futures program, was placed at William James Association. We're trying very hard to keep this program going. John was in the program as well. He's now in Empowerment Avenue. And it's a program which is an internship for formerly incarcerated artists who are interested in getting a career in the arts. This happened after Henry had already gotten on board, so you're kind of our pathfinder, Henry. Appreciate that.
Honored.
We had a very generous state contract. The state of California is broke now, and so we're trying very hard to keep that program going. We have a small cohort going now in Los Angeles County. But I just wanted to echo what you said about the potential and the promise of people who are incarcerated. And often they find their gifts and potential through the arts. So thank you both for doing the work that you do to keep bringing it up, bringing it out. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So what I want you to leave with, oh, where's my little book? One second.
It's gonna be a test.
Oh, no. More of a testament. First, I'd like to thank everybody once again. Thank you for the AS Art Gallery, for Project Rebound. And I was part of Project Rebound even before I got out. They were out there supporting me and, just throwing me love. And, when I got out, they did everything that they said they were going to do to get me enrolled, get me financial aid, to get me bus pass, everything. And Doris was right there, and she drove me around to get my tests up in Hayward and all this stuff. I mean, I'm just blessed with the people that got to meet in there. So what I want to leave you with, one, that people that are experiencing incarceration are human beings. They do have feeling. They do want to change. And the ones that do, you know, are just striving and just pushing forward, even when there's setbacks, even when, you know, administration is telling them, you can't do that, you're nothing more than this and all that stuff. But they have that drive to continue to be something different, to do something better, to try something new. And that is essential to coming out here, because there is so much to do. And do you want to just go into the same rut that you were in? I don't think so. You know, you want to be able to get out and say, let me try this, and you might find a new passion. But I will say, why does AIC, that's Arts and Corrections, you know, for up and down the state, we are part of it, the William James Association, and we have the Prison Arts Project that falls under the Arts and Corrections program. Why does AIC program longevity and familiarity work? Breaks down walls, question prejudices, question stereotypes, question fears, questions beliefs. Promotes vulnerability, willing to share personal details of life, willing to ask for help, willing to help others, willing to collaborate with others. Nurtures positive community mindset, builds trust, builds consistency, builds connection, builds relationships, develops positive self-image, self-worth, seeing oneself beyond a criminal, seeing oneself as an artist, seeing oneself as part of the community, seeing oneself as trustworthy, self-respect, being responsible, dependable, accountable, can complete a project, can help others, realizing one doesn't know everything. And after years, humanizing, supportive, provides a safe environment, creates trust in self, creates trust in other people, nurtures friendship, strengthens and or reconnects participants with their family. So support the arts, not just in correction, but we really like your support there a lot, but in all art fields, because it does heal, it does change societies, it does change narratives. So thank you for being part of this narrative that we are trying to change.